Hello. Okay, there we are. Hey, we're on. This is exciting. Hi, thank you everybody for coming and being here. My name is Tyler Germain. I am a filmmaker, photographer, and artist here in DFW. Thank you. I've been in this industry, the film industry, for a decade now, and have gotten to work with some really incredible people. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about how the film industry has really blown up here in DFW. I want to make it clear, we are not an emerging market anymore. This is a hotbed for film right now. Obviously, you've heard about, let's stop for that. That's huge. Obviously, you've heard of people like Taylor Sheridan, who's behind Yellowstone, 1883, Landman, and anything that has to do with cowboys right now. He has brought a lot of film here, but it's not just him that's been doing a lot of work. In fact, the people I'm going to be talking to today are a big part of why we have a whole lot of film things happening here. So I want to talk about some numbers real quick. For the economic impact here in just Fort Worth, we're just talking about Fort Worth right now, we've had over $1 billion in economic impact in the last 10 years. That's huge. 50,000 jobs supported. That's everything from people on set, like we all know, the crew members. We're talking hospitality, construction, transportation, the restaurant industry. I mean, artists in general are just like, this is such a huge moment for anybody who wants to get involved with the film industry. It's happening right here. I also have some numbers for Dallas, because I know we like to boo Dallas, but they are a big part of this world. 140 million in the last year in direct spending, just in Dallas. Over 600 shoot days and 4,000 local crew employed. That's massive. That's a huge industry, so that's really cool to say. So yeah, big things are happening here. Texas just passed a big state incentive for the film industry that guarantees $1.5 billion over the next 10 years. That's a lot of money. We should applaud that. That's huge. We've had major infrastructure growth here. We've had studios move here, including SGS, which is an alliance, which is the Taylor Sheridan studio, essentially. It will be the largest production studio in North Texas, and it's going to be moving right up the street from here. So we got that. Obviously, we've had major productions here, such as 1883, such as Landman, Lioness, 12 Mighty Orphans, Miss Juneteenth. That's all being filmed right here. That's super exciting. And super cool that we get to have that right in our city. So I want to talk to 4 people today who are a massive part of making all this happen. And I would like to introduce them each up here right now, starting with Red Sanders, who is the founder, CEO, and dreamer behind Red Productions, also my former employer. So excited to have him up here. Next up, we have Taylor Hardy, who is the film commissioner of Fort Worth and has done an incredible amount of bringing those productions I talked about earlier to Fort Worth, and we'll talk a little bit with her. Next up, we have Flores, who is the location specialist for the Dallas Film Commission, though he does live in Fort Worth, so give him some credit. We love him. And then last, we have Ethan McClure, who is a set dresser for a lot of the Taylor Sheridan shows, and he'll get to talk a little bit about what it's like to be on set. So thank you all for being here. Very excited. How are we doing?
Good.
Yeah, everybody chilling? We're all
never better.
Love to hear that. Okay, Red, I want to start with you as being one of the longest and biggest standing production companies here in Fort Worth. Over the last, how long has Red been in business now?
21 years.
21 years. That's incredible. So you've seen the biggest growth that's happened in this city. Can you talk about 21 years ago what the film industry looked like here versus now?
Yeah, I mean, I think back then I graduated from TCU, and at that time, if you had a film degree like I had pursued there, it was everyone went to LA and New York, and I was like, I had a great mentor. He was like, "What if you stay here and plant something and see what you could grow?" And at that time, I don't know, maybe there was like a couple other production companies in town, but now it's really exciting because it's like fast forward a couple decades, and all the growth we're seeing here right now. I think there's such a much more robust ecosystem here for it, and there's probably I don't know the exact count, but easily 30 production companies here now, and each of those are doing lots of different types of projects and employing different crews and actors and talent, and so it's really incredible to see the growth that's happened over that time, and really the midpoint in that 10 years ago being establishing the film commission under Mayor Price there. And that's where it really I feel like started ratcheting up. Because at that one, that was like 10 years into our business kind of timeline. And just like seeing the growth that Fort Worth had experienced to that point was really cool. And I remember some of the conversations then being like, what does this look like 10 years from now, which is where we're at now. And they were talking about like, we'll probably be at like 1 million people then, and wouldn't it be cool too if like we had a show or a series here that like really tapped into what Fort Worth is, and when we got all of those things come true.
We got a few
Landman and over 1 million people now. So
all that came through, and a big part of that is because of the Texas film incentives, which in case you didn't know, that's a lot of like obviously traditionally we think of LA and New York as the big film hubs in the country. Obviously there's also Atlanta and New Orleans, who are massive places, but now Texas is on par with those states. And North Texas in general. And Red, you were a massive part of going down and helping lobby for those film incentives. Can you talk a little bit about what exactly those are and what your role in that was?
Yeah, what we did was, it was right after they shot 1883 here, the Film Commission actually hosted a kind of gathering and a thing at the Cowgirl Museum about that. And literally kind of walking out of that, I walked out with our then state rep, Craig Goldman, and I was like, we got to figure out incentives. Like, I feel like it's always this party line vote thing where Republicans are against it, Democrats are for it. They think it only benefits Austin, but look what it's doing here. And he was like, you know what, let's get together and talk, and maybe we can figure out a way to move the needle on that. And, that led to like a conversation with Mayor Parker and Jessica, our film commissioner then, and a few others. And we decided to make the Fort Worth story the main talking point for the legislative session, like the last or two keynotes ago was about. And so, we went down and shared that story of how, it's not just Austin. This does employ people all over the state. And look at what great things are happening in Fort Worth here. And unfortunately, it was a story that really resonated well on both sides, Republican and Democrats. And I think they took meetings with me because they just saw Red Productions and they thought, this guy gets us. And I'm like, nah, I'm more like, redhead, not a political statement. But it was really incredible to see like what happened with Congressman. Now he's our Congressman Goldman, but when he was House Rep there, his leadership, and shifting that from what then was like a $45 million budget for 2 years, and people tried to do away with it every 2 years. So we were just like fighting to keep it alive till we got it raised to $150 million that session in 23. And then last year in 25, that became the $1.5 billion commitment over 10 years now. So
that deserves.
We don't have to fight for it every 2 years now. So
yeah, I mean that's huge. That's absolutely massive, and
it wasn't just me. To be clear, it was like the whole Fort Worth, contingent, and obviously the work Taylor Sheridan and 101's been doing here was like really helped drive that home because it created the economic engine that we needed to get everyone to realize this is a big business here. So.
Absolutely, and who can say no to more money? We're all about that. And then going off kind of the more government stuff, we also have Taylor here again, the film commissioner of Fort Worth, which is really exciting. Can you do real quick, just kind of explain what exactly, because you do a lot with the film commission here and have been a big engine behind bringing a lot of those productions here. Can you talk a little bit about your role and what the film commission has been doing for Fort Worth?
Sure, yeah, so the Film Commission is here to attract more productions to our city. Specifically think about those projects that may be considering New York, LA, Georgia. So we're telling them why Fort Worth is the best place to make their project. There's a couple ways that we do that. First is marketing the city, so that's attending trade shows, festivals, just spreading the word about everything that's happening here. And then the second is just supporting the production process on the ground. So we can help local filmmakers or anyone who is filming in Fort Worth with things like permits, connecting to locations, business owners, discounted hotel rates if you're bringing in cast or crew from out of state. Really here to just answer any questions. I did want to mention something that's kind of a piece of our job that's not always traditionally with the Film Commission, but we are housed under Visit Fort Worth. So tourism is a big focus for us. We see that, with these visiting film productions, but also because of film tourism. So if you're seeing a show like Landman and then want to come and visit the locations where it was filmed, there's major impact that's coming from that piece as well. And we've done some research on that actually and saw that people were 2 times more likely to consider a trip to Fort Worth after seeing a show like Landman, and the perception of the city improved as well. It's about 250,000 additional visitors per year just because Fort Worth was featured in a TV show. So it covers a lot of different areas, but I think that's kind of our main focus.
That's incredible, and obviously we were very appreciative of it. But as you kind of mentioned this with the tourism, but one of the other great things about the Film Commission is you work so closely with the city too, and all the things about the city. Specifically, you did help with that series highlighting local businesses and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about how the film industry doesn't just affect people in the film world, but the city as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, really every support business, every industry is touched by film production. Things like real estate for the locations, our hotels, catering services, local restaurants, artists that are involved now. So it's really exciting to see, how we can get everyone involved and, encourage everyone to reach out to us too. We have a production directory where you can list your business, any relevant credits and contact information to be able to reach these crews that are coming to town. I think that answered your
Yeah,
question.
no, that was
Okay.
perfect. Yeah, and that's something we were going to hit on later today is that there's so many more ways of getting involved with the film industry other than just being in the crew. Restaurants, films need to be catered with food. They need hotels for people to stay at. They need artists like Ethan, who we'll get to, who helps, decorate sets and make the everything look the way it should, So there's so many different ways to get involved, and I'm just excited these are the people you should talk to if you don't work in the industry but you do want to get involved. So now we're going to move on to Austin, who is the location manager, or specialist, right?
Specialist.
The specialist at the Dallas Film Commission, so he's right underneath their film commissioner there, you work really closely with a lot of, productions and things that move through Dallas. Can you talk about what kind of things you're seeing moving to this area?
Yeah, so right now, obviously, it is a lot of the Taylor Sheridan effect. There's a lot of series happening throughout the Metroplex, obviously up in North Fort Worth at Alliance, but just throughout Fort Worth, but then also throughout Dallas as well. Dallas is also a commercial hub, so we've had commercials since, I will say, the dawn of time, it feels like. It is just, there are commercials being filmed every single day for all the national, multinational brands that you see. If there's a commercial from Toyota, it probably filmed in Dallas. And we are also having television series starting to move in just because of the fact that our incentives are so good and so long lasting now. We don't have to go down to Austin every 2 years and be like, more money, please. And now that we don't have to do that, that longevity helps series land and also invest in our local economy, build up the infrastructure, make the Metroplex, bless you, make the Metroplex into something that is long sustaining with film and television production. So it's commercials, television series, films. We've seen documentaries happening now too. So there's really everything and anything. And to even mention just a little bit more, we have two incredible video game companies up in the North Dallas area with ARTSforward and Gearbox. They've been here since the dawn of time in the 90s. They've been here for a while, and they continue to grow every single year with just the output that they are doing. So there's really so many things happening in our neck of the woods, and we're extremely happy to have that.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's true. When we think of film, we tend to think of movies and TV show, but the commercial industry is absolutely booming here. I mean, Red, you do a lot of commercials too, and we've also gotten to work with a lot of national artists and brands and things like that. Austin, I know you and Taylor, if you want to pop in on this one too, you both get to travel to a lot of film conventions and film festivals, and you travel a lot of the country, both promoting our area, but also seeing what's going on out there. How far is DVFW reaching out into the world?
I will say it's major now. My commissioner, Katie Shuck, she has been at the Marché de Film, which happens during the Cannes Film Festival. Every May, just getting the word out there that Dallas and Fort Worth are open to these international audiences, that we want you to come film here. But if you come film here, we want you to hire our local crew. So that's one of the things, thank you. That is one of the things that we preach whenever we go out into just these festivals. You were at Sundance earlier this year. We're going to be at TIFF, the Toronto International, later this year. So, and you're going to LA next month too. Yeah, so we're going to go to LA to talk to the studios about filming their next series, the next movie, whatever it is, here in North Texas. So it is a lot of outreach and going to these people and being like, hey, Dallas isn't the show from the 80s, the soap opera. JR, I don't know what JR looks like, but, and it's not RoboCop either. So, the Metroplex is so much more, Dallas is so much more than what it is, and it's, yeah, we get to go to Toronto, that's so fun. But it is really just having these face-to-face meetings with these filmmakers, these decision makers, and basically telling them, this city is more than what you think it is. This city has good crew. This city has good locations. We have good incentives. And we're pretty fun to hang out with. So you should consider us.
Yeah.
I did want to jump in if I can, just to kind of put it in perspective. You know, we all see Landman and we're here kind of in this little bubble, but it's really reaching international audiences. In 2025, Landman Season 1 was the third most watched original streaming series in the country, and Season 2 was number 10. It was the only show to have 2 seasons on the top 10 list, and that was a total of 20 billion minutes watched. So the impact is huge. It's almost hard to kind of understand what 20 billion minutes looks like. We also have a lot of businesses that are now moving to DFW to support this industry. So things like Cinelease, which is an equipment rental house, you know, they chose Fort Worth for a new location. You know, that's an LA-based company that's just known around the world. You know, things like B&I for transportation. You know, several of these businesses that are now relocating. You know, in addition to the businesses that we already have, like Austin mentioned, you know, great crew. We have Shine Cine camera rentals, you know, locally too. But I think it's important that we have these recognized names so people in LA and these industry decision makers understand that we are, you know, set up to handle major production.
Absolutely, and I mean, we're obviously seeing the benefits of that happening right now, so that's really exciting. This is just the beginning, so there's a lot more to come. So then I want to move to Ethan. Ethan, you are the set dresser for a lot of Taylor Sheridan's work right now.
Yes.
Here in
One of them. One of the set dressers.
one of the many set dressers, but
There's
still
there's
one
like
we
30 of us.
We still appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
One, I want to, just so people know what a set dresser is, can you talk a little bit what that is, but also just can you tell us what it's like to work with Taylor Sheridan and being in those crews?
Yeah, so this will be my 5th year working as a set dresser. My first show was 1883, actually. Before I was in the union, a friend hit me up and was like, hey, he knew that like I did carpentry. He was like, hey, I'm working on this Western in Fort Worth. We need people with tools. What's the next like 6 weeks look like? I said, oh, yeah, I'll hop on board. 6 weeks turned into 6 months, and then now it's coming on 6 years. Like, it just happens that fast. But basically, a set dresser is we set up the world. Like, that's everything that's in the background, right? So, like, if this stage was the set, we set up all of this. Drapery department sets all this up. We bring in the speakers. We choose the color of the, you know, the skirt on the stage. We bring in the chairs, etc. And basically build the world. And with that, and with Taylor Sheridan's work especially, it's really fun because it's been so varied. Period pieces, you know, with like 1883, 1923, learning about all of the fixtures of what was in Fort Worth at this time, right? Like, oh, they didn't have that colored glass until 1887. We have to get all the blue mason jars out of here. Like, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then learning like the modern day stuff as well with Landman. The last 2 seasons, I've learned a lot about West Texas aesthetic and also like oil billionaires, like succession level wealth. Like I'll never be present at those tables, but I know how to decorate them now. So yeah.
That's incredible.
I couldn't believe just like seeing some of the sets that you guys dressed there, like up in SGS Studios. Like there was like a few scenes that took place in the Midland Police Department, but they can't drive the entire cast and crew out to Midland for this scene, right? Because it would be very costly. So they built the set there on the stage here in Fort Worth. But then like walking through that and just looking around on the desk, they had every little thing in there replicated where it was like, you know, there was like police files on the desk with like fake, I would assume, you know, investigations.
Mugshots.
And mugshots.
Yeah. All the mugshots that you see in Landman are all set dressers,
Yeah,
by
they're
the
all
way,
the crew.
because we have dibs on that stuff.
So you do have a mugshot.
We do, yes. Yes, I have a mugshot, and I'm also one of the police officers on the wall. Like we had to do double duty.
The criminal and the prosecutor. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Like when you're in these spaces, the way that the talent that they bring to that, like it's like you really feel like you're there. Like once you walk out of the set and you realize like, oh, I'm just in a big warehouse, you know, sound stage. But when you're in it, it really creates the whole world.
It kind of thank you for saying that. Yeah, it really like messes with your mind.
Yeah.
Like the level of detail of these sets. It's a house inside a house.
Yeah.
You know, Billy Bob's house it's a real house out in Saginaw. But the interiors, anything inside is all shot inside a warehouse. It's crazy. You have to see it. Yeah.
That's what we call movie magic right there.
That's movie magic. Yeah,
That's very
absolutely.
cool. So Ethan, one thing that I'm very excited to talk to you about is that you are from Denton. You're from Texas, right? You went to UNT. This is hugely important because part of this film incentive program is that there's a large percentage of Texas native film crew that has to be hired in order for a film to receive that incentive.
Yes.
Can you talk about, first of all, just going back into your story a little bit, like how you got involved in the film industry to begin with and what your path was a little bit there, just so people can kind of hear what a typical path might look like.
Is there a typical path?
There's
into
not.
it?
Let's start with that.
No, it is worth talking about. So I went to UNT. I was born and raised in Denton. I went to UNT to be an English teacher, English language arts. I taught at Crum. There you go. We got one in the back right there. Yeah. Taught middle school at Crum just for like a year, and then got really into like the hospitality industry in Denton. That was kind of popping off, opening up little concepts and stuff. I did that for like 10 years until COVID. Left the restaurants. I had just turned 30. I was like, oh, if I don't get out of restaurants now, like after COVID, I was like, let me try something different. I got into carpentry with my neighbor and then one of my friends who has worked in set dressing and set decoration for a while. He called me and said, hey, I'm starting on this Western in Fort Worth and yada yada, you want to come in? So that's kind of how I landed into it. I got into the film union, and it just snowballed from there. But I think the bottom line is, like, if you're looking to get in, like, be open to doing anything, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I was like, what the heck is a set dresser? He says, don't worry about it. You'll figure out there's going to be like 30 other people behind you. We won't let you fail. I said, awesome. But be open. Like, if you know somebody, start as locations, PA. Sometimes y'all just need somebody to just stand there in a high-vis vest and tell people, don't park here.
Yes. Just be a body.
And just be a body. Like, super duper important. Just be open for anything.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that's really important to say is that when we think of the film industry, and especially the crew side, you might just think of the people that run cameras and lights, and that is very important, but a lot of it are artists, people that come from theater, people that come from fabrication, whatever, and even carpenters who come in and, like, we need to build sets, we need to build houses, we need paintings, we need all those kinds of things. There's so many different ways to get involved that you would not believe. That's why credits at the end of movies are like 25 minutes long.
Well, and we have a huge workforce need for that right now in all these craft positions that are, like Ethan said, like part of this IATSE union. But there's like 1,200 IATSE members in Texas and Oklahoma, and they'll hire 1,200 people on one of these big shows shooting here right now. So it's like we have, now granted that's cast and crew, but still, like, we have a massive need for people to, come here, move back here, graduate from colleges here, and stay here. Because we have so much work that's happening here right now. And like you said, the incentive program, it only pays an incentive on jobs that are Texas hired crew or cast. So they're not paying out an incentive for an LA camera person or actor to come here and work. They're only paying that incentive to the production if it creates a job for a Texan or a Texas business, which is an important distinction, I think, from other states, the way they do that. And for maybe some in this group too, like, let's unpack the distinction between, grants versus an incentive. Like, this is not a grant where you just like apply for it and get money for future work. It's a rebate program, really, after you come here and create jobs in for-profit businesses. And so there's, it was created in 2009, but then like we finally got this like runway now for 10 years to really ramp it up. So it's gonna be exciting to see it grow. But again, it only works with like this three-legged stool of like the workforce here and talent for it, and then the incentives, and then the actual like infrastructure, like studios and Cinelease being here and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I mean, it is an industry.
35% right now. Sorry.
Yeah. No.
It's like 35% of all the crew on a show must be Texas local
just
hires.
to qualify, yeah.
And then, but I think it's every 2 years, it's going up 5%. So by the end of this decade, we're looking at like a 50% workforce. And on a crew of like, each show is like 800 to 1,200 people, easy. That's a lot of jobs.
It's a lot of jobs.
And
happy
there was
to
some
see
like
it.
pushback at first when that percentage used to be 70%. You had to have 70% of your cast and crew be Texans to qualify even. And so we went, I'm on the TXMPA board, and we advocated to lower that because there was so much work coming here. We didn't have enough people to meet that. And so we were like, let's have a smaller percentage of a much bigger pie here.
Yeah.
And then people will move here once the work is happening consistently, which is what we're seeing now. So.
Yes.
Massively, yeah, we're absolutely seeing that massively. And Austin, since being a location specialist, you work directly with the city and with businesses within Dallas City to make that happen. Because I want to make it clear, as I keep saying, this industry is not just people in the film industry or the people who are crew members. It expands outwards to the entirety of DFW. So can you talk a little bit about how that impacts everybody else?
Yeah, so it affects every single industry. I know Taylor brought this up. I know we've said this so many times already. It affects every single industry. You have a production that comes in and they're like, I have a A-list actor who broke a tooth. Do you have a dentist who could do this at 2 a.m.? And it's, a person that does not need to get this leaked out that they broke a tooth at 2 a.m. I help find that. I help find that. And I go out, call dentists at 2 a.m. being like, hello, can you do this real quick? But that's just like one example. There's also like, for example, regarding set deck, like, oh, we need lumber. Where's a good lumber place that isn't outside the state? Because again, you want to spend in state so you get incentivized and get that rebate for what you spend. So it's like having basically all these goods and services wrapped up in a location directory that we do have that's available for free for productions to use. But also being a human Rolodex of like, okay, that person did not answer today. I know who to call right now. Like, let's just keep going down the path until we figure it out. So like to just go back to the location question, it's a lot of fun to talk to businesses and venues and just people who are just like, I am a business real estate person. And I'm like, I love that for you. Can you handle a wedding? And if you can, congratulations, I'm about to just send a production to you because you're about to have the biggest wedding of your life and no one's getting married. Or they may, I don't know. They don't tell me the script sometimes. So it's a lot of fun to go out and just talk to people. And that's like the best thing about the job that I get to do is I get to talk to people. I get to talk to the community, like the film community, but also just the random people you think you would never talk to about having some kind of business being closed or street being closed or going up to the gas station and being like, hi, there's a production down the street. Are you okay? Are you okay with this? If you're not okay with this, here's the officer that you get to call, not me. So it's a truly just a wonderful thing. And this industry is, again, we always think about just cameras and lights and like the big things that you see, but it really is just every single thing is touched by this. And I know like Taylor and Red could definitely speak just about like the Fort Worth side about how it has completely transformed like Alliance. Alliance has completely transformed with SGS. So it is a massive thing that we're so grateful to have here.
Yeah, for context, the SGS studio you mentioned, it's up and running now. They've shot 4 shows in there already. And it's the largest in between basically Atlanta and LA. It's 450,000 square feet. So
Massive.
It's pretty
So far.
pretty incredible.
Yeah,
so
so
they're
far.
still adding to it.
Yeah, not to mention also Trilogy Studios that came here with Dr. Phil. So, you have those random things happening here now. Yeah, Taylor and Red, I mean, both being people who also get to deal with the city and all the different economic impacts. Is there anything you've also seen on the Fort Worth side of how these have expanded outwards past just the film industry into the rest of the economy?
I think, again, it's just the businesses that want to be supporting. We have more emails than ever and more people reaching out to us, which is great. I think that's part of the reason we have grown, because we have this supportive community here, whether it's Mayor Parker, or City Council, or any local businesses that want to be involved, and we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a big one, I mean, it's partly the locations, the small businesses they work with around town. I love you talked about the lumber yard, or like even my dry cleaner the other day, I got a text because they shut down Forest Park a lot for Lioness. And I get this text where it's like, the road's going to be closed again due to filming, so if you come in Monday, we'll give you 20% off. And I went in and I was like, hey, just a question, because I'm kind of involved in the industry here. is this really impacting your business in a negative way? Because like, we could talk with the people here about this. And he goes, I mean, well, that was kind of like somewhat self-promo too, to like just get on everyone's radar and let them know, like, yeah, there will be some little disruption in the street. And I was like, well, heck, it worked, man. I've been having this pile of dry cleaning I've been meaning to bring in for like a few weeks. So, I talked with TCU yesterday. Like, they've all the filming on campus, and obviously the school is even a named kind of character now in the show Landman. But they also hire students from there. They've hired over 1,000 students to either work on the crew or be extras in the scenes, and that is invaluable. Like, I remember when I was at TCU, you had to go out to LA to get that kind of experience. Now we have that right here. It's like a LA summer internship while you're here in Fort Worth, and just being able to go on set and see what this functions like at the kind of pinnacle in the industry for production is really cool. But it's not like, I feel like we've talked a lot about all the Sheridan stuff here today. Like, there's so much other work that still happens here that's independent cinema and film and like you said, commercials and music videos. And it's really amazing because Fort Worth has always had this kind of artist kind of like hotbed in it. Like, I remember growing up here, with my mom who's an artist, and it was just like, that I feel like Fort Worth's always been really supportive of arts and culture, and partly, I mean, I guess from the oil and gas history as well, where like they appreciated great art and they helped build these amazing art museums we have. So I love that this didn't happen overnight. Let's be clear, and it wasn't just the Taylor Sheridan effect. Taylor provided such a great, I think, force multiplier for it, but it's really a lot of the arts and culture organizations that have been here for years putting in that work. So now we're seeing the fruits of that labor. So
absolutely, and I mean it's gone far, and we're very, very lucky to be here. Well, I would love to open up the floor to anybody out there who wants to ask some questions to these lovely people. Unless you all have anything last you want to say. Oh, okay.
I was about to say, don't be shy. Congratulations.
Who's not shy? Yes. Yeah, great question. Yeah, absolutely. So the question, just in case anybody didn't hear, is how is the film industry, how are we supporting education, and how is that reaching the next generation of filmmakers? And Taylor, I think with your TCC program, the Fort Worth Film Collaborative Certificate Program, if you want to speak to that, that's kind of a great way to go into it.
Yeah, definitely. We have been really intentional with that and tried to work with our industry partners to see where are we seeing gaps in the crew. So we identified some areas like construction, hair and makeup, grips and gaffers, which is kind of like electricians. And we were able to partner with TCC, who already had training programs, and be able to teach these students what they need to know to apply that knowledge on set. But we did this in a way where it's a fast-track certification, so it fits around work and family. These are classes that can be taken virtually or on the weekends. So trying to really think about, how do we make sure we're growing homegrown talent and keeping them here. They're not moving to LA after they graduate. So I think the TCC program has been great, but we also have Texas A&M's Virtual Production Institute, so looking at a different area, but also getting some training there. Like Red mentioned with TCU, being really intentional about giving students opportunities, and then just trying to continue to expand.
Yeah, on the A&M front, that's been really exciting because if you've seen their new building going up downtown, that's one of 4 or 5 that will be built. And there was a special allocation outside of incentives to A&M from the 23 legislative session that funded a specific budget for virtual production institutes in the state. And Texas A&M jumped on that and set up the first 2, one in College Station and one here. The one here is at our studio, actually, at Backlot Studio, because their building's not done yet. So we are actually housing that right now. And what's really cool is that that's actually part of A&M's, A&M Fort Worth's got a big objective around what they call, I think it's innovation hubs, where it's the intersection of both private businesses and the public university in the same literal space was the goal. And I heard that and I was like, well, hey guys, we actually have a space. You don't have a building yet. Do you want to set up your virtual production institute in the studio? And they were like, yeah. I was like, so it was a really great partnership and created a win-win-win for both, their students are making their films in there. one week, and then we're hiring those students out back on like another project the next week, shooting on this what's called volume wall, like LED. It's basically if you just had it, you could put any kind of background up behind them, and it's all like real-time rendering with kind of animation and gaming design technology. So that's another really, out of the 3 universities, like it's really cool to see how each one is filling I think a separate need there.
Well, and what's really cool is with this new incentive package, crews are incentivized to hire students and work with a local higher education institute. So it's really, again, at a state level, being intentional about getting these students involved. I also wanted to mention T3, which is part of the Mayor's Council for Education. They're doing a new film initiative as well, and looking at even high school students and earlier than college. How can we educate about what jobs are available in the film industry and create this pipeline that these high school students maybe then go to TCC and then continue on that path.
I was curious, Taylor, if you could talk about the Oscar qualifying program and how unique that is to Fort Worth.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. We found out we were one of 6 Oscar qualifying cities in the nation last year, which is awesome because if you...
Yeah, clap.
Yeah, it really recognizes, DFW is a major media market, and I want to mention it's Dallas County and Tarrant County. So basically, instead of having to go through a film festival, you can screen for 7 days in a local commercial theater and then submit your project to be considered for an Academy Award. But what we found is that if you're doing this in one of the other 6 cities like LA or New York, costs are $10,000 and up, just impossible.
Expensive.
Yeah, so for an independent filmmaker, it was really hard to be able to do that. So we created a new program called our Premiere Packages, where we're paying for the theater costs, and we're hosting the film's crew, 2 people, cast and crew, that are flying in, doing a Q&A, and having a red carpet premiere party. So it's not just qualifying, they're really feeling celebrated and embraced by our community. And it's an interesting program because we've seen a lot of those filmmakers now that want to come back to our city for filming, even if their short films didn't actually take place in Fort Worth. So it's been exciting to watch that program grow. Thanks, Wesley.
And while it wasn't through the short film program, it's really incredible to see like the work of filmmakers that are homegrown and have come up here. This year for the Oscars for Best Picture, a film, Train Dreams, is nominated, and that's Clint Bentley, who grew up and lives in Dallas, and then Greg Cuidar, who grew up in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Greg even worked on our very first film here, and it's really cool to see how there's by I think shining a light on these filmmakers, especially at an early age, and just giving them that nudge or pat on the back that hey, that's cool what you're doing. You should keep doing that. Maybe they'll be nominated for Best Picture someday.
Yeah, and to plug real quick, Clint Bentley will be doing a Q&A at the Texas Theater tomorrow night at 5 p.m. If you want to go see Train Dreams, it's on 35 millimeter, and you get to see Clint do a Q&A.
It'll be better than just Netflix at your house.
So go see it. And then we also, in Dallas, we realized that, same with Fort Worth, that there's a genre of film that just doesn't get a lot of support. So we do our Oscar qualifying program called Screen Dallas. It focuses on documentary feature-length films. So we fly them in, we give them red carpet, we absorb the cost of the forewalling for 7 days to make sure they become Oscar qualifying. Last year's winner was Shuffle, which won Best Documentary at South by Southwest. Again, not to plug, if you want to see Shuffle, it's coming to the Texas Theater on Tuesday night, and the director, Benjamin Flattery, will be there doing the Q&A as well. So
Yeah, there we go.
there's other questions.
Oh, I want to get on the bandwagon of shameless plugs and offer up my mental health professionals at the Art Station. In case you have any mental health needs on your cast and crew. They're very discreet, and you can call me at 2 a.m. I don't know anybody. I wouldn't recognize anybody. I don't know anybody's names. I could be perfectly discreet for all your needs. But anyway, thank you for the work that you're doing.
Actually, on that same note, Greg and Clint's previous film that was nominated last year was Sing Sing.
Yes.
And this was set in a New York prison, and they actually cast formerly incarcerated people who were part of that same program. It was about a theater program within a prison. Beautiful film if you haven't seen it. It's one of my favorite of all time. But they realized in casting, hold up, we're going to be bringing people back into a very traumatic time and space in their life. And they were one of the first films I know of that had mental health professionals on the crew every day there for people. Yes. Yeah. So
Incredible.
I think it's really, what they started in that too, other people have talked about and realized that oh man, this might be a this might be a good additional crew. I mean, we have paramedics that sit there all day to do nothing but like sometimes put a Band-Aid on someone, hopefully do nothing.
Yeah,
but
hopefully.
it's like we all have mental health things too. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I am part of the art station, but I just wanted you guys talking about the incentives and how they're like creating jobs in our communities. And for your set dresser, I know like a dear friend of mine has a CNC shop, Black Forest CNC, and he's been getting like his business like over the last 2 years has exploded because of the work he's been doing for sets and like shipping it all the way up to Montana. But he started out in Strawn, I think, with the...
Strawn.
Yeah.
We called it Operation Desert Strawn because when we were filming out there, it was so dusty for like a month. It was awesome. We love Strawn, and Mary's Cafe is out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You
right
gave it
on.
a facelift. Mary's has no hope for a facelift. But,
No.
but
There ain't
anyways,
changing.
Yeah, I just wanted to like shamelessly plug him, but also like what you guys are doing is really great. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That is a really fun part about like working in set decks specifically is like finding vendors, finding like who's the local plug for corduroy. I need so much corduroy fabric and I need it tomorrow, and then going out into the community and like talking to people and exchanging numbers and finding that stuff.
there used to be a company here called Dickies, but
Yeah.
bittersweet. All right, Tyler.
That hurts
Rest
me.
in power.
Amazing. Real quick.
Sorry, I'm over
Oh,
here.
yes, there you are.
Sorry.
We got that.
I was just wondering, if you are a local business, how do we get on your directory to help should these random or not so random things happen?
Yeah.
We take bribes. No, you want to talk about the directory?
Yeah, it's free to create a listing. So if you go to our website at filmfortworth.com, you'll see a tab that says crew directory. But if you need any help, let us know, and we'll make sure we can help you optimize and you're ready to go.
And same for the Dallas side as well. We know that the Metroplex is the Metroplex. People drive from Frisco to McKinney, or not. Oh, they do, but from Frisco to Mansfield and Mansfield to Plano. Like we understand. We also have a crew directory as well, a crew and vendor directory. It's filmdallas.org. You'll see crew directory up top. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us.
There's also a Texas directory. We all use the same software, but when someone wants to find someone local, so I would make sure to do all three if you can.
Yeah, on that note, like she said, it's all the same software. So go through the application and fill it out on one of them, but copy all your answers before you hit submit.
Yeah.
That way you can just paste it into the other two.
Yeah, I can't also expand anything on that. Like, we are DFW. Even when I was living in Fort Worth, all my jobs were in Dallas, and then once I moved to Dallas, all my jobs were in Fort Worth. It's like we are one big metroplex. If you want to get involved, do it all. I can't recommend it enough. All right, we have one back here.
Yes, I have I don't know exactly how to ask it, but when you're looking for also Texas people to work on these shows, is there a way that you also look for Texas artists, and are you required to do that for like background set design? Do you focus on looking for local for the backgrounds?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Is there a way, and how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time we want to hire local wherever we're shooting because otherwise we've got to fly people in, put them up in hotels, and you're going to do that for a certain amount of like key positions, like the cinematographer and some of the key, talent on the show, or maybe like the gaffer or key grip or whatever. But like, yeah. But yeah, as you get down like into other, positions on your crew, like you very much want to work with local artists and craft people because they know where to source everything locally already. The actual incentive program we've talked so much about today only incentivizes you if you're hiring local, people as well. And so, whether it's, I remember one time on one of our early films, like we had a scene at a graveyard, and we didn't think about it on this low budget film, but like a shot of a headstone to actually have the name of the person from the film in it was going to be really expensive to make, and we worked with a local artist to just make that out of like styrofoam and make it look like granite, and so it was a lot cheaper than buying a headstone. Now it'd be really easy, I guess, just to do that with visual effects, but like then we needed to actually have the piece there. So
Yeah.
And there still is a need too for like local background, like especially muralists, right? Like we have paint department in art department that handle a lot of that, but when we're working out in public spaces and on locations, I would recommend the same thing as if you're a small business, get into the directory, list yourself as a muralist, list yourself as a, I don't know, a ceramic, expert, just whatever it is, like get into the directories because that's who our art directors reach out to as soon as that there's a need, and they just go down the line.
Yeah, and I also want to
hope
add
that
on.
helps.
Yeah, and I want to add on just being involved in the community, like going to these film mixers or going to film festivals and getting just to know people. You just don't know what needs there are out there. And the second somebody goes, oh, I need a muralist, and then they go, oh, I just met one last week, boom. Things like that can happen very quickly. So yeah, get involved.
Okay, we have 2 last questions, and then we'll turn it back over to you, Tyler, to close out this panel session.
Yeah.
All right, please go ahead.
Hi, hold on, let me see if I can, sorry. So I'm a researcher of film studies, but more importantly, a teacher of media arts. I teach middle school and high school. We're actively growing like the next generation of filmmakers. And even though I have kind of a small group that I'm trying to grow, it's so important to get them excited and kind of see those real world applications. So I was just wondering, and again, it might be kind of silly to ask, but are there more opportunities for them to come? Like we can fund like a field trip to come see like a studio or just anything. Again, it's a very small group of kids, but getting them excited in a real world way is really important.
Yes, I mean, we love hosting like field trips or just demo days at the studio for groups, especially with A&M. Like we just did that on Tuesday, Wednesday of this past week for other professionals that wanted to just learn more about virtual production. But I remember growing up and going on similar field trips with a media teacher in high school. So thanks for doing that, because it opened my eyes to being like, oh, this is actually happening here. This is really cool, and like and there's lots of other opportunity like groups out there that I'm sure would do the same. The other big one is like Lone Star Film Society here. I'm on the board for that, and we put on the Lone Star Film Festival each year. But then during the summer, we host these film camps for high school age students. So. You what?
Kids were in them.
Oh,
this
awesome.
past year.
So you already know about that one, yeah.
Yeah.
But those are open for sign up right now if anyone else is looking for summer camp for a budding filmmaker. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. We got one more.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm your last question live. I'm Dana Schultes. I run Stage West Theater, so I'm very familiar with the union from the perspective of live theater. But I am curious. I heard you mention IATSE and joining almost immediately, and Texas being a right-to-work state, and this being an industry that is largely union-based. I'm wondering for people, I'm adjacent, I can get into anything SAG, but I'm just wondering if you could speak from the union perspective of the requirements of being in IATSE to be able to work on the films, both in the production and post-production realm.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. So you're referring to you do stagecraft, and so you're familiar with that union, and it is
right.
similar to that 484. In order to join the IATSE 484, which is Texas and Oklahoma, it requires 30 days in a calendar year working on a union production. So in Fort Worth, for example, any of the Sheridan shows, those are all union shows. Like you don't have to be in the union to work on one, but if you stay on it for 30 days, then you get your hours. Now, if that's not afforded to you, they only need a non-union person for like 2 weeks, and then you're like, well, crap, I got halfway there. It requires 90 days in a calendar year on non-union shoots. So that's everything from commercial work in Dallas. That's everything from, working on shoots for conferences, music videos, any independent, 2-3 day shoots you might do, as long as you're working on a shoot, that'll go towards your 90 days. And once you get those 90 days, you can apply.
So is it generally open? Like, is a foot in the door available if you are not union, and it's just simply a rule of like, okay, hey, you've now reached that limit, now you must join? Or is there any, not wanting this, but prejudice towards people who are not already in the union in order to get the foot in the door, especially for people who have a wide depth of work already in the career field?
Right. Yeah. So those folks that aren't technically in like 484 Film Union, but they come from stagehand work or they come from that world, they tend to last a lot longer on film sets because they're familiar with the vernacular. They're familiar with best practices, things like that. To answer your question, is there always a door open for non-union workers? There is. It just depends on the need of the show at the time, right? We do require 35% of our crew to be Texas hires. That's union and non-union. If another show starts up and 20-30% of our crew hop onto that one, all of a sudden we got to hire some more locals to make that 35%. And then a lot of times with rap and prep, the two stages at the very beginning of a show and at the very end of a show, that's when you see a lot of local hands. That's how I got in, was like, we just need bodies. We need to load these trucks. We need to return this stuff. We need to break down a warehouse.
And so, that's where it's like, people have to be willing, I guess, to work in a different role than maybe they're accustomed to, or maybe it's a lower titled role.
Exactly.
If you're not in the union yet, to get to prove up. I lasted for 30 days on this, and it's it's a weird one though, because it is like kind of a double-edged sword sometimes. Where it's like, how do you get in the union? Well, you got to work 30 days on a union set. How do you get hired in a union set? Well, usually they hire people in the union.
Right.
So you just got to, but that's a great point about timing out wherever the shows are, like one's rapping and one is prepping. So
right, and like you said
double the
earlier,
people.
like there is a need for film workers in Texas. We have more shows going than we have union crew for, right? So.
And there will be more coming.
And there will be more coming.
We haven't even talked about the World Cup.
Yeah.
Like after the World Cup, there is a onslaught coming. So crew up.
I also want to add on, because Ethan, you touched on, you don't have to work on union shoots. It does take more to do the 90-day non-union shoots. We have an amazing commercial industry, which oftentimes is not union shoots. So if you get into the commercial side, I mean, I'm telling you, that's the majority of my work right there. It's just coming from that. But thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it. I just want to say that it's obvious that this DFW is not emerging anymore. We are there. Like the film industry we are the hotbed of it. And it's really exciting to be here in this time. And I want to thank these people for being such an important part of it. Red Sanders of Red Productions. We got Taylor Hardy of the Fort Worth Film Commission, Austin Flores of the Dallas Film Commission, and Ethan McClure of Ethan McClure. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you.